Hello, my name's Craig Hamilton Parker, and together with my wife Jane, we go around the world on mystical journeys, giving proof of life after death through our mediumship. We do this in theatres, at conferences, and a great deal of work on television as well. We do all our work nowadays for free, and you'll find out why we do that at the end of this video. Right, first of all, I'd like to tell you that I'm not a Nostradamus expert. I can't speak ancient French. My schoolboy French is laughable. So I am, like rest of us, stuck with other people's interpretations of Nostradamus. Now, the one thing perhaps where I do differ from other people is that I am also a psychic myself, and I've not done bad over the last few years with my predictions. If you go and look at my website, you'll see that there's a very high percentage of predictions correct, 85–90% right. But it's not just a matter of getting something right, it's getting very interesting specific things right that you couldn't go checking out in press, or you know, it's not yes no answers and so forth. They're weird stuff sometimes that I pick up. And one of the weirdest predictions that I made last year in September, well, further back, September 2014 I think it was, or whenever it was, so check it on the website, was that Donald Trump would be president. And at the time that was an absolutely horrendously ridiculous thing to say. And of course, as we all know, it happened. So I'm talking today about not just my predictions, but some of the predictions of Nostradamus and how they've related to some of the things I've said, because I was as surprised as anybody when I realised that some of the things I've been saying are also very similar in some respects to what Nostradamus said, and I want to just clarify some of the things I say and relate it to Nostradamus. Now, the problem with the Nostradamus whole thing is that it's almost like looking at the clouds. You can see a face and you can see a landscape and you can see this and that, you know. You're projecting your own ideas onto the cloudscape, and the same way people do that with Nostradamus. So we end up with one or two sentences that can be twisted and turned. Woo! There goes the focus. Twisted and turned in all sorts of different ways and get very confusing, right? I don't think Nostradamus, you know, he was seeing things a long time ago, and did he really see our times? He might have got some glimpses. But I'm a bit closer to this time, and other psychics are, so perhaps we can get a better understanding if we get something, some form of precognition. We might be able to relate it more easily. Now, in my predictions this year, one of the things I've said that's coming up is that I see the collapse of the Italian economy, and this will bring down Europe, or bring down large part of it, because most of Europe will survive under Germany, but countries like Italy will leave. And I see Spain and France and Denmark and maybe some others, Holland possibly, all coming out of Europe, and a group of countries being now gathered around Germany. Now, someone said to me that, oh, Nostradamus said that. And I thought, oh, God, I didn't know that. But I'm not sure he has. I wouldn't be able to even tell you what quadrant it was in. But he has, I've found out, said quite a few things about what people are interpreting to be Donald Trump. Now, I think the Italian economy collapse is going to cause some real major problems, of course. And one of the quadrants that seems to point to this is I'm just looking at on a website here. There is a quadrant, quadrant 140. He doesn't mention Italy, but it says, a false trumpet concealing madness will cause Byzantium to change its laws. From Egypt will go forth a man who wants the edict withdrawn, changing money and standards. Weird. It says the word trumpet, and says the word false trumpet, and says concealing madness. Now, some people are saying, that's Donald Trump, Donald Trump, concealing madness. The guy's a nutcase, okay? So that's what they're saying, that interpret that as. Will cause Byzantium to change its laws. So what's Byzantium? Byzantium was the old Eastern Roman Empire, so the eastern side of Europe, perhaps particularly the southeastern part of Europe. But it says the edict withdrawn. We don't know what the edict refers to there. and why from Egypt, but changing money and standards. If I'm right, and the Italian collapse caused the euro to crash, wouldn't it mean that people would have to bring in new money? For example, like in Greece, there's a very vulnerable country likely to be fall out of Europe. They would have to go back to the drachma, wouldn't they? If the euro went, or trade in dollars even, or if the same thing happened in Italy and the Italian banks went down the slide, as I think they're going to, what would happen to Italy? They'd have to either bring back the lira, or use like another currency such as the pound or the dollar, or possibly the euro. But if the euro's in such serious trouble, they wouldn't be able to use that. So would that be them changing money and standards? Would that be something to do with that? Could that be something, Trump responding to a European crisis? I don't know. It's interesting, but it seems to correspond with some of my feelings about what that European crisis could be. I mean, a lot of people are saying, Trump's going to bring about World War III. No, I don't think that's going to happen. I think there's going to be, I've been predicting for a long time problems in China. Not just problems, I see the complete collapse of the Chinese system. I see a revolution in China. Now, I don't know if it's going to be 2017. I've been saying this for a few years, but there's going to be a complete upheaval in China, which will bring something good ultimately. It will bring a democracy in time. But until then, we're going to have major problems from the failing communist regime. Because remember, we forget China's a commie country. It's communist. And the people there are not really be able to vote like you and I can. And, China's got its hands on Tibet. It's gagged Taiwan. We've got problems in North Korea, which, some are saying, Nostradamus predicts that in 2017, North and South Korea are going to unite, and that can only come from a war, and America's going to get involved. I think that's wrong. I've been predicting that Kim Jong-un is going to die next year, and he's going to certainly fall from power if I'm wrong with that, about dying. That will cause the implosion of North Korea, a reunification ultimately, because I think China will stay out of it, I think America will stay out of it, and the country will weaken so much that it will naturally want to unite with South Korea. We hope. I think there's going to be problems between China and India too. More of that on the website. But I want to keep primarily as much as I can with this to Donald Trump, because there's a lot going to happen with the European business. I think Trump already is favourable towards the Brits. He says, we're the same side of people. So that's his attitude. I think that's really going to make some major changes for Britain and America, because I see Britain and America becoming more than just partners. They're almost becoming one country. Now, I remember reading back in the 80s a book about Nostradamus, which talked about that America and Britain will become one country. Now, that's not been in the books lately, but that was one person's interpretation. And I actually think, that could be on its way. There could be not as one country, but certainly, Britain will become the next state of America. I don't think it'll go quite that far, but I think we're going to be much closer bonds than there's ever been before. Similar things are going to happen between Russia and America. Russia and America will become friends, I think. I know it sounds like a very dangerous situation as I talk now in January 2017, but I think Trump's going to get on well with Putin. They're going to actually carve up Syria. It's going to be partitioned. This is something that's going to happen there. It's something I've spoken about a lot. I think this is one of the things that's going to help resolve the problems in the Middle East. It's not right, two countries carving up Europe. That's what happened when Britain carved up all the Middle East. We messed it all up, and that's why it's all straight lines on the map, because they were deciding it with a ruler. And now we're going to get Trump and Putin doing the same thing. But it might bring temporary stability. Now, there's another Nostradamus prediction that seems possibly to relate to these things. That's Century 157. It says, "The trumpet shakes with great discord, an agreement broken, lifting the face to heaven. The bloody mouth will swim with blood, the face anointed with milk, and honey lies on the ground." Weird sort of way of making a prediction, to be honest. But look at the words. Trump, again, the trumpet shakes with great discord. What's that? Is that an angry President Trump? you know. An agreement broken, lifting the face to heaven. Okay, some agreement. What agreement's that? Well, it seems to relate to this idea, the anointed with milk and honey lies on the ground. Now, I remember from when I studied divinity at school, that the land of milk and honey, of course, is Israel, isn't it? Could that be the country that comes to the ground? Is there going to be some terrible disaster in Israel? There's already moves between Trump started to do, again talking now in January 2017 if you're watching this sometime in the future, but he's planning to, or is about to move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Oh, well, what's that? Just an embassy. That's a hugely symbolic thing to do. I mean, huge. I worked in Israel for a long time on a kibbutz. I'm not Jewish, but I know the country. And the mentality there is that these symbolic things are very, very powerful in the Israelis' mind. And, you know, that kind of gives legitimacy to Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And that, in the Arabs' mind, gives legitimacy to the same idea. You know, one of the major causes of the conflicts. The Arabs don't want to see Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. It's got to be split in two. You know, so there's a pretty dangerous move there. Just in that one action before he's even while he's still president-elect. So I think there will be troubles in Israel. I don't think it's going to be the sort of troubles that people are talking about. Everybody exaggerates it and says it's all going to be World War IIIs and things. I mean, even Pope Francis, they say, said something to or other about that we're already in World War III. Well, we kind of are in a way. I mean, terrorism's a world war, you know. So, but it's not going to be nuclear bombs flying around, in my opinion. If I get that one wrong, we won't know about it, will we? Because we'll all be dead. You know? But the trumpets are mentioned a lot in the Bible, of course, and people are jumping in on ideas like that. The trumpet being the being sounded before the Antichrist comes and things. So I think it's dangerous reading too much into things. I can only go from my feeling. And my feeling is that, you know, we'll still be here in 2018 and way beyond that. And these things that are happening in the world are all part of the evolution of us as people. We're very primitive at the moment. We still are in this age of Kali Yuga that the India talks about, a dark age of materialism. But we are coming out of it, you know. It's like the old hippie thing of the coming of the age of Aquarius, man. But we are gradually, over a long period of time, coming out of the difficulties. And although we seem to be in very dark times, all the time consciousness is evolving. We are being better people now than we were a long while ago. And gradually, human consciousness is awakening. And one day, we will see the power of human consciousness, that we are capable of being more powerful than any nuclear bomb by our sheer consciousness, our sheer being. We can change the world. We are capable of becoming gods. We are capable of becoming miraculous beings. You know, we see a little bit in people like myself and many others who have a bit of clairvoyance to see the future, or mediumship and so forth. But the human is capable of incredible things, far more powerful than any one man or one country or anything can ever do. So keep your thoughts upon being positive, you know. Stop feeding yourself with fear about the future. It's going to be all right, guys. We know there's always going to be problems. There's always going to be human suffering. But what we must always do is move towards the understanding of the greater part of ourselves. The fact that we are, as people, are capable of incredible things that the scientists and others can't even begin to conceive at the moment. In the future, we'll have new sciences that take into account consciousness that can create tremendous energy from nothing, things like that. But that's for another talk some other time. But anyway, there's some of my basic, simple thoughts about Trump and Nostradamus. Jane and I now do our spiritual work for our foundation. All the profits that come from things like our conferences and theatres and workshops and all those exciting things now go into this foundation, which ultimately has the long-term plan of building centres in the UK and maybe around the world one day. But meanwhile, we've been doing a lot of direct spiritual work with it. We've been going out, feeding people in India, giving to the destitute, giving to beggars. We've helped feed schools, helped orphanages, and we've even given cows to older people that have no other form of income. So mediumship can change your life, but it can also help people directly in the world. So go to the links at the end and find out all about what Jane and I are trying to do. And you can do a lot just by sharing these videos on social media. Help us get the word out. Help us to do something really good in this world.